Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Pace, and welcome back to everyone who's already subscribers to YouTube channel. If you're not already subscribers to this channel, please subscribe so you can see more great interviews like the one coming at you right now with first-time guests on the show. It's always great to have a first-time guest on the show, made even more special because this first-time guest is 1 week, 7 days exactly away from making his amateur MMA debut at Brawl on the Burgh 20 for 247 Fighting Championships. A big welcome to Tyler Fleming. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Hi guys, how are you doing?
Always great having a first-time guest on the show. I hope this becomes first of many times. Let's jump into it. Before we get to Brawl on the Burgh 20, February 24th at the Mooresville Sports Zone Arena and Complex, let's talk about what got you into MMA in the first place. Great place to start with that. What is your sports background? What sports did you do growing up? And then what got you interested into MMA?
So sports growing up, I didn't really do anything. I didn't really do anything for a whole long time. I did a lot of stuff. I did start in karate whenever I was 9. Did that for a few years. Played golf because my dad played golf. In high school, I did spend a year or two playing lacrosse and a year or two running cross country. Um, but what got me interested in MMA is I was just really bored with life, and I knew that I wanted to get in shape. Uh, my friend Andrew Dwyer, he's actually competed in the Sprawl in the Burghs. He was already training at Stout, and he recommended me come in and give it a shot. And I realized why I fell in love with martial arts whenever I was a kid in the first place after just a week or so of training.
And what was that experience like for you? Talk a little bit more about uh, Stout Pittsburgh, specifically what head coaches or trainers or partners there really made it a great connection for you. For people that don't know, Stout Jim is the two-time and current reigning 247 award winner, as well as Coaches of the Year 2 times in a row. So 247 has done two annual awards, and so far Stout has won both the coaches back-to-back and the gym itself back-to-back. So talk a little bit more about that experience for you when you started going.
So whenever I started going, I spent 100% of my time with Rocky Long and Jonas Rubiano.
Okay.
Uh, and the two of them, I became very close with both of them very, very quickly. In fact, at this point, I consider them very important mentors to me in life overall, not just in learning how to fight or becoming a better fighter.
And what when did you start training and what location? I know Stout Pittsburgh has multiple locations. So what location was that and how long have you been training with them?
I've been training for roughly 2.5 years, and the Zilly location, Zillion Oval.
And we've seen Jonas Rubiano fight for 247. So that's great. Glad to hear that he's sort of a coach heading up Zillinople. That's also a fantastic thing with Stout that it's got that network. And so it's cool to see sort of one of the branches producing you. Who are the other fighters that fight out of Zillinople?
Max Gerald, he
He's,
fights
yeah.
out of out of the North location. Um, Mason DeLess,
Oh,
he coaches a lot up north. Other than that, I think most of the roster are jiu-jitsu guys.
oh, sure. Which makes sense because it is a Gracie gym, so that makes perfect sense with what that is. But it's also really cool to see the reach, and a lot of those guys have already fought. Max Gerald is on this card with you, and of course we've seen some of the other guys. So super cool overall. What has been the most fun aspect of learning MMA, and what's been the most sort of learning curve aspect of MMA for you?
The most fun thing. I would say the people that I've been exposed to because of MMA has made my life more fun in general. Because before, I mean, I had a tight knit friend group, but I've met some really, really amazing people training, people that I never would have met otherwise. And I would say the hardest part of adapting to the training every day kind of lifestyle was just learning how to be disciplined with myself
Mm.
and learning how to incorporate discipline, not just when I wake up or not just for a few weeks on my diet, not just but to actually buckle down and give myself no more escape routes.
Makes sense. Self-discipline is always a tricky part in living the life of an athlete. Always takes a lot of dedication. And of course, a fight athlete, a combat sports athlete, probably even more. But that's really cool. That's why that family, that team, that network around you at any gym, particularly Stout Zone Opal, goes a long way, right? Because your lifestyle changes a lot. Um, you're tall for 155. You're 5'11. Looks like tall, rangy guy. Is that something that you think could give you an advantage, not just in your debut, but also staying at 155 as far as your frame going forward, or are you just kind of trying to figure out the weight as you go?
I'm gonna try and figure out the weight as I go. I During my first year of training, I lost roughly 30 pounds, and that got me down to about 165.
Mhm.
And whenever I decided that I wanted to take a fight, I I knew that I didn't want to try and drop another 20 pounds.
Right.
So I went to the next closest weight class.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's either that, since you said you lost 30 pounds at 165, it's either go down to 155, which will be your debut. Yeah, drop another 20 to featherweight, but everyone's own choice, but it seems like a lot. You could have also, I know sometimes in amateurs, people fight maybe a little higher up than they would, so possibly even put on a little bit and fight at 170. But that's for you and your coaches to figure out with your frame. I'm reminded a lot of Cowboy Cerrone, who fought at 55 a lot, but then ended up having success at 70 because the frame sometimes can kind of go between those two. A lot of people have suggested a 163 or 160, in that like mid range, because the frame is such an odd frame for a lot of people. And even the greatest 170 pounder of all time, welterweight GSP, he wasn't the tallest. He was, he probably could have done a 65 or 60, that mid range weight class before. Of course, he put on a lot, went up to 85. But really fantastic to have you on to see. Let's get into the fact that you're making your debut against another debuter. Probably not a lot of tape on either of you guys. It's always exciting for debut. So, what are your thoughts on Jaden Blake? He's 18. He just turned 18 in September, so I guess he's 18 and a half. I don't have a birth date on you on Tapology, but you look mid 20s. So what do you think about a young kid who's confident enough? He's training out of the gym. It's kind of interesting. You're currently training out of the gym of the year for 247. Your opponent is training out of the new gym of the year. PA Combat Sports came on the scene huge last year. They've got a lot of great up and coming fighters. You're smiling. What are your thoughts on PA Combat Sports as a gym, this gym versus gym, and also your opponent, Jaden Blake?
I don't really know anything about his gym, and I don't really know anything about him, but I do know that being 18 and accepting a fight, I'm 28.
Right.
He's just turned 18. Being 18 and accepting a fight with someone that's 10 years older than you, that takes a special kind of person. I mean, he might not, maybe he doesn't have a whole lot of experience uh feeling how older guys feel, but I do know, like, my first year training with Rocky, those were some of my hardest rounds. That old man strength is real. I know that I'm much stronger at 28 than I was at 18.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I, I just think that the fact that he has the dedication to do this at 18, that's not something that I was capable of. I was still staying out till 4 o'clock in the morning every day, getting 2 hours of sleep, going to work, and repeating it all over again. So I think he's got a set of balls on him, and I commend him for that.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal to make your debut at any age. But you're right. I think you mentioned earlier in the interview self-discipline being the biggest thing that you've learned from training for 2.5 years. And clearly, every fighter has to have that self-discipline. To have it at 18 for your opponent, and probably starting at maybe 16, maybe even earlier, to be ready to fight at 18 really shows. But it also sounds like the self-discipline for you has really helped you as a person too. From your younger, more immature days. So it's really great to see that at 28. You still have some time to potentially make a run in amateur and kind of see where that goes for you. We'll wait for that till after the fight. Do you want to make a prediction on the fight outcome, or kind of what you expect from yourself in this fight coming up?
No, I want to keep my expectations open. I find that the most success that I have is whenever uh, the only expectation that I have of myself is to do my best.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. A big part of expectation is expectation management, giving yourself an expectation that you can fulfill, like doing your best, managing what he does, managing what you do. There's lots of different things as opposed to trying to predict an outcome. Completely understand if you go on some type of ridiculous 5-0 run and you're fighting for a belt, then maybe you'll have enough to be able to say, oh, I want this to happen or that to happen. But obviously, first time in, it's really exciting. I've said it on the 247 broadcast before. Debut versus debut is getting more and more exciting. Hats off to the legendary matchmaker, Jim Mooney, and all the guys at 247 and all the gyms and you training and your opponent training, because amateur debuts still sometimes can be a little, unpredictable. And sometimes amateur debut fighters don't quite look as polished, obviously, but we've seen more and more amateur debut fighters look like experienced amateurs. And this is a connection that maybe connect to you. Hoot Lee, who's fighting for the strap, the one gonna say 55-pound strap. I hope I'm right on that. So in your weight category, 155, I believe. Uh, I called his debut fight, and we said, hey, he's training out of a great gym. Looks like he's already experienced amateur. And here he is a couple fights later fighting for a belt. I think the same thing, hopefully, is true for you and your opponent, where you're debuters, but you come from great gyms with great coaches, and debut fighters are now looking like guys with 2 or 3 fights under their belt already, what we consider like that mid-level amateur. So can't wait to see it. Do you have friends and family? How big of a crowd do you think you'll have there for your supporters? Is it more of like a small contingent that's going to be in your corner there for your first fight?
I think it'll be a smaller contingent, but I may be surprised as well. I have had a lot of people tell me that they're coming out to support me. So, well, I hope to see something big, but I do know that my small friend and family group will definitely be there.
Well, that'll be exciting. And fighting out of the gym you do at Stout, the Stout crowd, just like the other crowds, I think it's exciting that fans will willingly root, kind of like I root for the Steelers. They willingly root for a gym that they like, whether that be Indio Dojo or PA Combat Sports, like your opponent, or Stout, or the Mat Factory, or the Academy. Some of these, or Gorilla House, which has the first ever 2-time champ, double champ in Ethan Wolverine Goss. There's about a handful of gyms that people will root for, and you come out, announce the Stout, even if people have no idea who you are, you're going to have that fan reaction. And that's a cool thing. And I say that for a lot of people that fight for 247. Timbo Slice is constantly wanting to fight for 247. He's from Michigan. He's developed fans from Pittsburgh who root for Timbo Slice because they've seen him so much. So even if somebody is an away fighter, it's still an opportunity to put on a show, show the crowd what you've got, and the crowd will end up, fight after fight, becoming a fan, even if they didn't know you to begin with, which is what's really special with 247, really putting on the ability to grow amateur fighters. Have you been to any 247 events? And is there a fight that stands out to you if you've been there to root on any of the Stout guys or girls over the years?
Absolutely. The last 247 event that I was at was Max's debut, and that fight stood out to me because that fight qualifies as exactly what you were talking about. These debut guys coming out looking like experienced, high-level amateur fighters.
Mhm.
That's exactly what Max did, and that's because of the skill that we're surrounded by. We're constantly put through the meat grinder and putting ourselves back together week after week after week and getting better.
Yeah, I remember that being cage sized for that. You're absolutely right. That's he is an example, and you will be an example in a week's time, in 7 days' time, of what the training does to get you ready for your first fight. Because Max was another guy. If he's fighting for a belt down the road, I'm going to say the same thing. I saw his amateur debut. He looked like a guy that, while not perfect, already had a lot more experience than maybe some debuters would have. And that goes from the training. Of course, he's off with a 1-0 start, and that's a great way to start anything. What do you think? Because you've mentioned Max a couple times now, and obviously you guys are that brotherhood from the gym. What do you think that's going to be like for you guys fighting on the same card at the same night? Is that something that you're mentally preparing for? That you have to kind of lock in and focus in on yourself? How do you think you'll handle that?
I am personally really thankful for it because out of everybody, I've gotten probably closest with him, just because we've spent the most time together. And I think that I think that just having someone that close to me is going to help me with the pre-fight jitters, you know. Um, but all in all, I feel pretty prepared for that moment in time just before I walk out. I've the last couple of weeks I've felt like I'm on top of the world. I feel like nothing can really go wrong for me right now.
That's incredible. Glad you're feeling that confidence. And of course, a lot of people don't realize, because we just see when fighters walk out and get in the cage, how much that warm up process is physically and mentally, the behind the scenes. It's an honor for me to be able to run around in the red corner and the blue corner and talk to people and kind of see some are completely chill. He trains out of the mat factory, but Justin, the General Patton, is known for like being under a blanket, literally sleeping or resting. The power couple both do that. Some guys are kind of more engaged talking, some are more chill, some, all the different things. So having Max there, who's already been there, to be able to kind of do it with him, I think will go a long way. It's been really great having you on the show. It's always wonderful to have a new time guest on the show, particularly also because you're going into your debut fight. 247 is just an incredible promotion. They've announced recently that they're going to be making an actual arena, the Sunny Days Arena at the venue, which we won't see yet. We've got a couple more events before that's ready, but that's going to be absolutely incredible. And they just announced, which was shock to me and shock to most people, that the Monroeville Convention Center is closing to become a Hobby Lobby, which will make the venue even, I think, more significant, not just for MMA but potential other events. So hats off to the owner, Ryan Middleton, and GM Hunter Hummelstack, and of course the legendary Jim Mooney, and everybody at 247. Can't wait to see you in a week. It's going down. Still opportunities on 247fighting.com for people to buy tickets, give you credit. We always say that. Find your favorite fighter's name. And in this case, you're not really going to know who all has bought tickets, but if they give you credit, that goes a long way for you. If anybody's watching this from outside of the Pittsburgh area and wants to support and see what happens with Tyler's debut, download the 247 live app on any smart TV or tablet or cell phone, and you can buy either the monthly, which we recommend. The monthly subscription gives you all the fights, all the pay-per-views for the year, or you can just get the pay-per-view to support Tyler. Either way, give Tyler credit. A special thanks, Luke Payson here at MMA Fancast, thanking you for watching, and Tyler Fleming, first-time guest on the show, for coming on. Thanks so much, Tyler.
Thanks for having me, man. I'll see you in 7 days.
Can't wait. 247 Fighting Championship Brawl in the Burgh 20, February 24th, 7 days from now. See everyone there.